news in the intelligence world this week, Aldrich Ames died. Ames will make anybody's top 3 list of most famous Western traitors. He worked for the CIA for decades and at one point started selling information to the Soviets. The most controversial class of information that he sold was information about the identities of Soviet double agents, Soviets who were actually working for the CIA and their allies. So as you can imagine, it was a hit to intelligence programs, counterintelligence programs via the Russians, and also it resulted in lives lost. Now, is it ever okay to become a traitor? This is like a huge topic, lots of ethical stuff in there. And I can see, yes, sometimes if you're in that freedom fighting space and it's about fighting fascism or oppression, I get it. It gets a little bit dodgy after that, right? Ideologically, is that a justification? Hard to know. If you agree with it, maybe. If somebody's coerced, you can have empathy, but that doesn't make it right. But to me, the most prosaic and unacceptable reason is for money. No. You turning traitor for money is just, I think that's brutal. And that's what Ames did. Ames spied just for the money. And he went out and he spent that money. He did not deposit it into an offshore account. He bought cars, like fancy clothes, house, like he lived well on the money that the Russians gave him. And it's really interesting for me because they took a long time to catch him. They knew that the program was compromised. And apparently I read at one point, the CIA stopped recruiting Russian agents because they couldn't protect them because they knew that somebody was leaking information horribly. And after they checked around, got rid of the technical options, blah, 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 they narrowed in on it being a person. And then eventually they narrowed it on him. And it's hindsight's 2020. I'm not saying anybody's at fault, but I do find it interesting because I remember when I started working for intelligence, one of the things I had to do in the indoctrination phase, we all had to do was watch this video. I think it was produced by NSA, but it was about like red flags in the office. Kind of like that sign at the airport that says, if you see something suspicious, say something when it's about unattended luggage. It was that these are the red flags in the workplace. These are the things you need to watch for. And one of them was somebody spending way above their means. If you see that in a coworker, you were supposed to say something because our salaries were all public. We all knew what each other made within a couple $1,000s. So you really shouldn't be able to go buy a yacht unless you come from family money, right? If you're working in intelligence. And Ames really flaunted that money. That's actually how they eventually caught him, but it took a really, really long time. So if anybody has any questions or comments, as always, let me know. He's a pretty controversial character, so I'm sure there's lots of perspectives out there. But he died. That's a kind of a big moment in spy history. Anyways, hope everyone is doing wonderful.